Shalom, good evening. I'm gonna try this again. I just had a freeze. My broadcast the other day, man, I was not even planning to make it about what I seemed to be uncovering while I was doing it. I just kind of got confused and everything. So I kind of just decided to look into it a little more deeply, and this is what I found. Moor in English usage, a Moroccan or formerly a member of the Muslim population of Al-Andalus, now Spain and Portugal, of mixed Arab, Spanish, and Amazigh Berber origins. The Moors created the Islamic Andalusian civilization and subsequently settled as refugees in the Maghreb, in the region of North Africa between the 11th and 17th centuries. Um, it's funny that they don't mention having Negro blood here: Arab, Spanish, and Berber. Um, okay. By extension, corresponding to the Spanish Moro, the term occasionally denotes any Muslim in general, as in the case of the Moors of Sri Lanka or in the Philippines. Today, the term Moor is used to designate the predominant Arab Amazigh ethnic group in Mauritania, which makes up more than two-thirds of the country's population, and the small Arab Amazigh minority in Mali. Okay. The word derives from a Latin term Maurus, first used by the Romans to denote an inhabitant of the Roman province of Mauritania, which interestingly, I can't say that word there. We're going to see in the next slide here that Mauritania, in the Roman idea of Mauritania, didn't fit into the lines that we see on the map today. The Roman idea of Mauritania was basically all of North Africa, extending all the way down to Ghana, right? So all the way around the that I don't know, all the way down to Ghana, right? So shoot, the whole upper at least third of Africa, right, or maybe even more, being Mauritania, very very large area. Okay. Comprising the western portion of present-day Algeria and the northern portion of present-day Morocco. That's untrue. We'll come to see that that last part there is untrue. Mauritania was a larger area. The term is of little use in describing the ethnic characteristics of any groups. I'll say it again. The term is of little use in describing the ethnic characteristics of any groups, ancient or modern. From the Middle Ages to the 17th century, however, Europeans depicted Moors as being black, swarthy or tawny in skin color, like Othello, right? However, Europeans designated Muslims of any other complexion as white Moors, despite the fact that the population in most parts of North Africa differs little in physical appearance from that of Southern Europe. Okay, again, despite the fact that the population in most parts of North Africa differs little in physical appearance from that of Southern Europe. And that's interesting because Southern Europe, we're learning, is a melanated region. In North Africa, a more cosmopolitan region with many different races, or else leaning more towards pale skinned peoples. And they say about that in Morocco, for example, red and blonde hair are relatively common. That would lend credence to the fact that the Phoenicians settled in that area, which I've heard to be taught as having red hair, um, and blonde hair. You know, Canaanites. Um, Very interesting. The term Moorish continues to be widely used to describe the art, architecture, and high culture of Muslim Andalusia and North Africa dating from the 11th century onward. Okay, we're going to go to this other one. Okay. Moor originally meant Westerner, not black, Negro, or colored. This is a long article. Um, so, like I said, this is the dominion of Mauritania in Roman times, basically the whole western part of Africa. And we're seeing that Maori or Moor means west, westerner. So that would explain that this area of western Africa being called Mauritania. Mauritania. Okay, we're going to start with this. Moor originally meant westerner, not black, Negro, or colored. Um, I'm going to kind of skip through this article because it's very long. I'm going to try to pick out the things that were good. We'll see how that works. So bear with me. If it starts sounding erroneous or not important what we're studying, I'll just go ahead and skip over it. There is no reason to believe that the people who call themselves Maori assumed their native name from foreigners, Europeans, Romans, nor Greeks, as many Black American or African American laymen have proposed. Um, this article is written by this person. So we can see why they might not want to undermine the work of our brothers and sisters of the melanated people. Laymen have proposed, okay, as many, and whom I find to largely rely on the common reference to the Greek and Roman languages. After all, North Africa, then called Mauritania, and Spain both had provinces of the Roman Empire, and as such, they had traded with one another for centuries. And this comes from the Knights Templar of the Middle East, a hidden history of Freemasonry. All right, here we go. I'm gonna go down a bit. I hate this computer. Please excuse the fact that it keeps jumping back up again. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna keep going. Okay. Gonna keep going. Sorry. Okay, we'll read this here. The word Moor is a loose term that was used in medieval and Renaissance England to refer to the Moors. Black Moors, Negroes, Indians, Mohammedans, or Muslims. All these terms were more often than not used interchangeably. This study is concerned with the Moor from North Africa. The words Moor, black man, black Moor, Negro, Ethiopian, or even Turk or Arab, which I have seen used as well. I have an article about the sea urchins or Arab children from London, referring to the supposed poor children. But I always had and the article itself never gives up the fact that they're speaking about black people when they say Arab or street urchin. But here we see that these are words used interchangeably to talk about blacks. Okay. Were used interchangeably in the 16th and 17th century in spite of the fact that the English became aware of the distinctions between different types of blacks. The word Moor was commonly used to refer to Muslims in general, whether they came from Africa or Asia. Thus, the inhabitants of the island of Maluka, part of today's Malaysia, are referred to as Moors in religion. In fact, as Anthony Gerald Bartley put it, almost anyone who was not a Christian, European, or Jewish could have been called a Moor. This includes Asians, Native Americans, Africans, Arabs, and all Muslims, regardless of ethnicity. Okay, this is a Moor definition from Immigration Dictionary of Races, and it's spelled out here. More a historical rather than an ethnographical term applied to very different peoples of northwestern Africa. In Roman history, it is applied to inhabitants of Mauritania, Morocco, and Algeria, who were in part Phoenician colonists. In Spanish history, the Moors, there we see the Phoenicians again. In Spanish history, the Moors and Moriscos were mainly supposed to be Arabs. Today, the word is wrongly applied to the rifts of Morocco and to the town dwellers of Algeria and Tunis. The latter call themselves generally Arabs, although often in part of Berber blood. The Moors, in a stricter ethnological sense, are the mixed Traza and other tribes on the western coast from Morocco to Senegal, mainly of nomadic habits. They are of mixed Berber, Arab, and often Negro blood. Many speak Arabic. We'll say here. So predominant was the black skin of the Moorish invaders of Europe, the blackamoor. Now, there's a lot of conflicting information, as you see in this article. He does go into the evidence supporting the term Moors relating to black people or melanated people, and we see it here. But we're going to see in a few minutes him talking about the Westerner meaning of the word. So predominant was the black skin of the Moorish invaders of Europe, that blackamoor. And you know, again, think of it like this too. So they're invading Europe, and we've been going over the fact that the people of Europe were black, were dark skin, complexion, melanated people. So they're going on and on about the Moors and how they had black. If the Moors were coming and looked just like them, I don't think they would even make any kind of statement like this. So predominant was the black skin of the Moorish invaders, but you know, of Europe. But you know, like I say, they're black. So why would it be so remarkable, right? Came to be used not only for Moroccans, but for other blacks as Ethiopians and Sudanese. Okay. Elliot Smith says Negro admixture is so evident among the Moroccan population that the word Moor is often used to suggest Negro influence as we see it. So we do know that the word Moor meant black, or so they claim, right? Okay, now here we go. Strabo corroborates the fact that Moors named themselves by stating Mari was a name used by the natives of Mauritania as well as the Romans. Mari was a name used by the natives of Mauritania, not just the Romans. Okay. Gonna go on here a little bit. Okay, that's not it. I think we're coming down to it here. Bear with me here. We're getting down to it, getting real close. They gave this as a source. I'm going to read this because this sounds really interesting. The Iberian roots of American racist thought. You know, that's suggesting that in Iberia they had these clash of the races, right? And not the way that they tell it, possibly about you know, the white Spaniards and the white Europeans being invaded by the black Moors. You know what I mean? If we're starting to find out that the Europeans were not white, but were black, an idea like this, and what I've seen proposed in many places, is an inference. I love to use inference because to me, if A and B are true, then possibly C is true. I like to use that a lot. So, a thought experiment, just imagining the possibilities, because the goddamn history is so fucking screwed up that we have absolutely no goddamn idea what happened besides what they say, you know? But we start going through and we start seeing things and we start learning and we start opening our minds and we start to imagine that maybe the Moors were white. I don't know. Okay, so I'll let you know what this talks about. Okay. And we're almost there. Here's something else. The earliest European account of the Moorish invasion of Spain, the Chronicle of 754, refers to the Visigothic capitulation, the so-called loss of Spain at the hands of the Arabs and Moors sent by Musa, or Musa ibn Nusayr, the Muslim governor of North Africa. Okay, here's something else. This view of the origin of Mars must, however, be disregarded here, and our attention turned. I think that's supposed to be our attention turned more directly to the dwellers among the moors and marshes, whether they gave their name to these places or were so styled because they inhabited them. They were at any rate known as Moors. So that is to say, this became the general pronunciation given to the word. The original root seems likelier to have been Mor, M-O-R, as seen in Cornish, Armorican, and other language. I don't know what that language is. That sounds very interesting. Jamieson, in his Scottish dictionary, says of the old word Moriav, defined by him as black, swarthy, resembling a Moor. This word has certainly been used in Old English, as Cotgrave gives it as the sense of Father Moor. ID is probably a contradiction of Mauritanius and Moor. It would perhaps be more correct to say that Mauritanius and Moors are extensions of Moor. Okay. Shit. I had it marked what I wanted to get to. Okay. Okay, this is it here. This is it. It appears that writers have replaced the ancient Westerner meaning of the term Moor with the black or brown complexion or skin color description of the people in their efforts to implement white skin supremacy into literature, which requires enforcement of the crusader duty to blacken, white out, or strip dark skinned peoples of their Moorish heritage. I have a theory that the purpose is to employ illusions of association amongst descendants of enslaved Moors, now identifying under the badges of slavery branded upon enslaved Moors starting around 1441, such as Negro and Black. When these two terms are found within legislation enacted to govern slaves, slave records, and revisionist history books written in an effort to create political black pride in those learning about the history, heritage and culture of Moors who claim it as black history. It was black authors who accepted the badges of slavery, who accepted the badges of slavery as a suitable social or political, i.e., racial identity, following behind white supremacist authors whose very agenda is the same. These same authors chose to ignore the use of the black as a caste perpetual brand badge of slavery, as only being employed in slave records, and accepted it as an identifier for various indigenous and ancient nations, kingdoms, and tribes. Much reliance is based on historical references identifying the skin complexion or color of several ancient groups, including the Moors. However, the truth can be colored over, but it cannot be removed. Okay. Talking about the Phoenicians again. Okay, here we go. Here we go. The etymology of the word Moor can be traced to the Phoenician term Mahurin, meaning Westerners. The Semitic etymon Mahurim referred to people of the West, and the terms Maghreb meant the West, or the place where the sun sets, and the greater Maghreb referred to the further West, while Maghreb el Aska meant the extreme West. According to Lawrence Waddell, early Phoenician titles such as Muru, Mer, or Marutu can be translated as meaning of the Western Sea, or Sea of the Setting Sun. The Akkadian Amuru occurs as a geographical term meaning literally the West. In Sumerian, the Amorites were known as the Mar-Tu or the Tidnum. In Akkadian by the name of Amaru, and in Egypt as Amar, all of which mean Westerners or those of the West. It must be noted the Hebrew terms Marab, Mereb, Marabah, and Mahar Aub also meant West. The Hebrew Mahur also means Westerner. And I guess this is from the Odyssey, and it says, "But now Poseidon had gone to visit the Ethiopians worlds away. Ethiopians off at the farthest limits of mankind. A people split in two." I'm not sure what this is talking about. One part where the sun god sets and part where the sun god rises. Blasphemy. Hayah. Homer on the Ethiopians. Okay. Let's skip the rest of that. In Hebrew, the word Arav thus has the same triconsonantal, like a consonant, triconsonantal root as the root meaning west, setting sun or evening. The direct Arabic cognate of this is garb, west, rather than Arab. However, in Ugaritic and Sahadic, I have no idea what that is, languages which normally preserve Proto-Semitic Gaian, is the root found ayin, adding to the confusion. Yeah, it is confusing, isn't it? But okay, here's some more. The first source I present that Moor means Westerner is Philip Curry Hitti. He was a Lebanese American scholar and authority on Arab and Middle Eastern history, Islam, and Semitic languages. He almost single-handedly created the discipline of Arabic studies in the United States. In his work History of the Arabs, first published in 1937, contended that the term Moor has a geographical designation meaning Western. Philip Herty spent 10 years writing his book that the Romans call Western Africa, Mauritania, and its inhabitants Mori, presumably of Phoenician origin, meaning Western, whence the Spanish Moor and the English Moor. The Berbers, therefore, were the Moors proper, but the term was conventionally applied to all Muslims of Spain and northwestern Africa. The origins of the term is not elusive like most claim and do not go back to death, as the term precedes existence of the Roman deity Mars. Many of these frivolous notions that people have come up with today on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, the arrogance within the ignorance is remarkable. Among some of these bogus scholars and educators, you even have people on the Hidden Colors video purporting to be educators telling the people that Moors means black. This is because they do not deal with technicalities. The fact that English dictionaries from 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, and early 19th century use black and Negro and sometimes black man merely demonstrates who it applied to versus specifically meaning that Moor means black or Negro. What it shows is that the writers of the English dictionaries were on board with the stripping of the name and heritage scheme. Y'all gonna like this. Capitis diminutu. My brother, I heard you talking about this before. They branded Moors as Negroes and blacks. Thus, it was significant to define Moor as Negro and black in their dictionaries. So the English descendants would not forget who the term Moor applies to, i.e. the people now identified as Negroes, blacks, and African Americans. The following source, I'm going to finish this, as you can see, we're only like halfway through it. I didn't go all the way through it, so I'll check out if there's anything more. Let me see. In the Latin Middle Ages, Mari referred to a mixture of Berbers and Arabs inhabiting the coastal regions of northwest Africa. In Spain, Portugal, and Italy, Mari became Moros, Mares in French. More commonly, however, it was the racial designation for dark skin or black peoples as in its English usage, which is seen as early as the 14th century. So we see some more ambiguity going on here, some more confusion. Par for the course in Babylon, correct? Anyway, Hayah, all praises. And we'll go ahead and say shalom. Have a great evening.